Yeah. Hi, I'm Arthur, and I really was not looking forward to this one. I've been working on the Space Wolf idea in my head for a while now, probably since before I even made the channel. It's pretty simple. There is a lot to talk about, and I think a lot of my opinions about them are pretty sound. So here I am, on the third draft of this video, and I'm still not 100% sure how to do this. The first script was bad, so I got rid of it. The second script, I liked, and I even recorded it, but before editing, I just watched a few extra lore videos to kind of hammer home if all my readings were correct and if the general consensus was, in my favor. It found out that my video was way too similar to the video that Pancreas No Work did like a month ago. Far be it for me to step on someone else's toes. So here I am. Third time's the charm, as they say. And I don't know where to start. So I'm just gonna go into the things that I think are the most important to know when it comes to Space Wolves, especially if you want to play them or want to know more about them. As sort of a primer. And the most important thing to know about them is, if you know about the Space Wolves, you have an opinion about them. Of all the Space Marines, they stick out like a sore thumb. They are such an outlier in terms of design, lore, and just fucking everything that they almost verge on being a parody of themselves. Does that mean they are stupid? Yes. Does that mean everybody hates them? No. I know more people who think the Space Wolves are the coolest of the Space Marines than I do people who think that the dumbest thing to ever walk the Earth. It all has this vibe of how do I put this? Okay, I'm gonna let you in on a bit of deep Arthur lore here. I once worked at a fast food restaurant. I was late teens, maybe early 20s, and a bit of a big goober whom liked to be a bit silly in public. Halloween rolls around, and the boss at my work said, "Hey, if you guys want to wear a costume to work, you totally can. Just make sure you have your name tags on." And I'm like, me being me, was all fucking for that. So I got a cute little Vault Boy onesie and wore it with my uniform. I had a little Pip-Boy too. It was really, really cool. So cut to me, working my shift on the front cash register. I am the only one in a brightly colored costume. That is the Space Wolves. They're the only person wearing a bright costume in a room full of depressed fast food attendees. Was I embarrassed? Fuck no. I had a blast. Are the Space Wolves embarrassed? Also no, they love their dumb shit. But I can see where people think they are kinda dumb. And I'd be lying if I said they were my favorite faction. Hell, I'd be lying if I said they weren't at the bottom of the totem pole for the most part. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand the Vilka Fenrica, or whatever, however you say it, or the Wolves of Fenris, you have to understand their homeworld, Fenris. Fenris is a death world, which death worlds are essentially planets that it is considered suicide to actually live on them, which makes it kind of extra badass that there are entire tribes of humans whom live there, and pretty consistently too. The Fenrisians deal with the worst things that the world can throw at them. Ice, deep freezes, volcanoes, flooding, wolves the size of Clydesdale horses, literal krakens that may be ancient Tyranid bioforms, and whatever the fucking ice bear is. This has bred a very hardy species of human, whom the Space Wolves take the rowdiest of their children, with the greatest chances of becoming something heroic, and turn them into a Space Marine. The whole culture around Fenris is the romanticization of glory. It's the image of the Viking hero, rather than understanding the history of it. The people taken in culture are referred to as the Sky Warriors. So, when you have these children brought up on these myths and indoctrinated, you have them turning into Space Marines that are obsessed with having songs sung in their name, them being spoken of in long stories about their conquests, heroic deeds and shit. So, this is what is drilled into the young recruits to be that. These children were brought up in a culture to think glory is the most important thing ever, and that the Wolves of Fenris are the peak of this. Immortal god warriors that are spoken of in reverence to all that hear it. With that backdrop in mind, I kind of want to talk about the most interesting part about the Space Wolves, which is how they train their recruits. So starting from a neophyte, once you go into being an actual initiate, you are put into a group. This group is of about 10 plus Astartes. I've heard it can go between 5 and up to like 15, but there could be more. Rules as written in the game, you can have up to 20. These groupings of the youngest and most brash are called Blood Claws. They are the fresh recruits that are completely batshit insane. They are berserkers, mindlessly charging towards whatever they can see. They usually carry a bolt pistol in one hand and a melee weapon of whatever kind they can grab in the other. They are crazy, certifiably so. They, as a group, are taught brotherhood. That's the whole wolf pack mentality, and that mentality is what binds these blood claws together. Now, you might think berserker charging gun lines is a bad idea, but to be honest, the ferocity at which they are described of doing it in the lore is so intimidating that it kind of works for them. They will charge forward and rip anything they see to pieces just for a meager ounce of glory. I mean, to be fair, as we've learned, I doubt there is any normal, rational person who can see 8 metric tons of ceramite meat and fur charging at them with a chainsaw, screaming, and still maintain their composure. So, they're going to lose a few guys after a little while, as you could probably guess. The blood claws begin to whittle down, losing Marines during engagements and all that. And after several decades of this campaigning, their body starts to go through a physiological change. Their hair becomes gray and frizzy, and it starts to grow longer, and their eyes turn into this yellow amber color, similar to that of a wolf. This is the next rank, or rather next stage of their development, which turns them from blood claws to the actual ranking officers of the army, which is the Grey Hunters, known as Grey Hunters because of the gray coloration in their hair. They have a sort of a stoic defiance to them that is almost hard to put into words. The hot-blooded, charge in, worry about the details later mentality of their youth is gone now. They are now stoic. They now have learned the practical application of using a fucking ranged weapon in a military scenario, which, oh my god, who would have thought? It's a good idea. And essentially, they're the equivalent of tactical Marines, which is the normal rank and file of the firstborn Marines. But in lore, they're technically more than that. They are way more experienced and way more thought out. Now, the rules in the game used to reflect this, because space rules are kind of weird like that. But we're not done here. Once the Grey Hunters have been in service for a while, the initial pack starting at 15, whittling down to 10 to become the 10 Grey Hunters. Say those Grey Hunters get whittled down even further after another 100 or so years of service. Their body goes through another continual change, where more of these wolf-like traits start to come out. Their hair is almost starkly gray, thick and bristly, like a timber wolf. Their eyes are almost luminescently yellow amber. And the most interesting part is they gain very elongated canines. These individuals are considered almost the most venerable and elite members of the chapter. These are called the Long Fangs, named after their long fangs. And where the Grey Hunters use ranged weapons, the Long Fangs have learned how to use advanced ranged weapons. And by advanced, I mean the guns that they ripped off of fucking tanks. Plasma cannons, auto cannons, missile launchers, las cannons, weapons that can turn a bunker into a trench in like a very short volley of fire. These are like the upper echelon of experienced warriors, and they usually stick around for a little while after that. So that usually leaves them with about 5 members for these Long Fang packs. And that's kind of how it ends. Usually they die after that. There's no like ancient Long Fang or super Long Fang. Once you get past that, there's a few straggler ranks. These rankings are, with the Blood Claw packs, you have minutia groups that are like Swift Claws, which are the Blood Claws that are given motorcycles, because that's terrifying. The most suicidal and stupid of the Blood Claws, whom do not learn how to become Grey Hunters and do not lose that suicide charge mentality, are given jetpacks to kind of help them do their thing better, I guess. But after that, you start to get the weird offshoot ranks where, say, an entire pack of Grey Hunters is killed except for one. This individual can choose to be absorbed back into another pack and try and, incorporate themselves with people that they don't know, or they can choose to stay by themselves. I've assumed there's a lone wolf joke in there, and I feel like that's a ranking out there somewhere, but these are called the Wolf Scouts. Where in most Space Marine groups, the Scout Company is considered the neophytes, the amateurs. In the Space Wolves, they're like the veterans of the chapter, because they have to fight by themselves for a long ass time. And eventually they do group up into small scouting parties of just people who have this mentality. So they are very well trained to do what they do. Then, after the Wolf Scouts, you have the Wolf Guard. The Wolf Guard protect the Wolf Lord, and they're basically the chapter's elite. And this is where I'm going to have a mental fucking breakdown to explain to you that the biggest problem with the Space Wolves is that their names are fucking stupid. They have the dumbest naming conventions I have ever seen. They suck so much that it takes me out of it. Oh, look at that! It's Herald Deathwolf surrounded by his wolf guard mounted on their thunderwolves going into battle carrying the fucking wolf claws. Oh, what's the name of your company, Herald Deathwolf? Oh, neat, it's the fucking Deathwolves? Oh, that's so neat! God, okay, all their aesthetics are just whack. It's so lame. Their lore is silly. Their Primarch is kind of a cool guy, actually. Okay, Lehman is weird. Also, I'm sorry. I'm probably not going to talk about the Primarch much. There's not much context I could add to the Space Wolves that would make this make more sense by talking about them. And this isn't a video about the Primarchs, it's a video about the chapters themselves. I'd probably make a secondary video to talk about Lehman because he does have some interesting facts about him. But the best way to see him is like, he's just Space Wolf Plus. He's the best representation of the Space Wolves. So you have the noble, savage, Viking, warrior, I'm smarter than you, 3000 IQ. I could have killed you, Angron. I could have gunned you down, but I didn't. So I just pretended to lose the duel. Oh my god. I don't like Lehman that much. Okay. I got my bitching out of the way. One or two last major things to know about the Space Wolves chapter is that they are incredibly non-codex compliant. Like, they're so non-codex compliant, I'm pretty sure they wipe their ass with the pages of the codex just to piss off Gilliman and the Ultramarines. So, how the chapter is divided is instead of 10 battle companies, you have 12 grand companies. Each one, in some instances, being described as being as large as some Space Marine chapters, which is fucking okay. It makes finding estimates of their current numbers in the modern setting a pain in the ass, but whatever. Each grand company has a wolf lord seated at the head, sort of like how a captain is the head of a company. These wolf lords tend to take on the name of the company. So Herald Deathwolf, actually his last name probably wasn't Deathwolf. He just took the name Deathwolf, to be the wolf lord. The equivalent of the chapter master for the group is this man who is the wolf lord for the first company by the name of Logan Grimnar. And to be honest, some of the Space Wolf characters are kind of cool. Logan Grimnar is one of them. He's this incredibly old fucker with a demon trapped in his axe called the Axe of Mordecai that constantly tries to seduce him into corrupting, which he just ignores, then uses it to fight. Also, a fun tidbit in lore, he's the only Space Marine who has ever demonstrated the ability to go into a full sprint in Terminator armor, which if you know what Terminator armor is, that's fucking horrifying. Goodness me, talking about Space Wolves is so difficult. Because they have all the building blocks of other Space Marine chapters and legions, just used completely differently. It's like that magnet poetry thing where like you took a bunch of words and stuck magnets to them and threw them to a fridge and saw what stuck. So there is obviously many different ways I could have gone over this, and I have a feeling this video may be a bit longer than usual, but I hope it's at least entertaining. The Space Wolves are a stupidly named chapter with a lot of genuinely interesting characters, like Lucas the Trickster. This guy is such an asshole that when he got his heart ripped out in combat, he had it replaced with a stasis grenade so that the next time he dies, he'll trap someone in stasis forever. That's kind of awesome. Space Wolves throw themselves into melee with this reckless abandon that many other chapters, if not all of them, cannot share. They have this pride about them that exceeds every single other Space Marine chapter by a huge margin. So they have the best melee combatants. They don't follow the doctrines of the Codex Astartes. They They're just odd. But that's just my opinion. What's your opinion? I want to know what your opinions are in the comments. And what do you think of the Space Wolves? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you play them at tournaments while blaring Sabaton? Because that is the thing I would do if I played them. Let me know in the comments. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Because next time we're covering the 7th Legion, which are kind of the opposite of the Space Wolves in execution and design. Oh, fuck, I forgot to mention the werewolves. Yeah, there used to be a 13th company that got lost in the warp and came back werewolves, and also with a curse that turned people too lost to their bloodlust into werewolves. They're called the Wolven. Fucking werewolves in space? They have grenade launchers? This is Post-Video Arthur. Just coming in to say thanks again for watching. I have a lot of very conflicting opinions about the Space Wolves. I think their older model range definitely hurts them, and the fact that the Primaris Marines, although some of them do look kind of cool for them, it kind of detracts from their whole aesthetic when you kind of get boiled down to being the same units as everyone else. Like an Intercessor is an Intercessor is an Intercessor, where with Grey Hunters, a Grey Hunter is not a tactical Marine, a Blood Claw is not an Assault Marine. It's kind of weird like that. I still don't like them aesthetically. I find they're a little too much, but I guess that's just me. Yeah. Thanks again for watching. I look forward to doing Imperial Fists next week, and I'll see you then.